Hello, friends, and welcome to Wake Nation 21, the first fan fueled YouTube channel dedicated to everything Wake Forest athletics. My name is Josh Chilton, and I am your humble, dedicated, now co host. And today we want to make a quick announcement before we move forward. And to do that, I'm going to pass it to my brother from the same mother and father, Shane Chilton. So, Shane, what do you got for us?
Hey, everybody. It's great to be back, man. I just couldn't get enough. So I talked to Josh and I was like, I got to be back on here on a more permanent basis. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. You know, it's great. I'm a double deek, so I'm always watching Wake and can't wait to get into it with you.
Awesome, man. And today we're going to be talking about week 2 of training camp. And we're also going to do a little defensive personnel analysis. We're going to project a depth chart up to this point. And so we're just going to get right into it, not waste any more time. And I need to go back to the original slide. So we're going to do that. Oh, you guys got a little sneak peek. Week 2 camp recap, defensive depth chart. We're going to talk a little bit about defensive alignment. But first, we've got to do some cleanup. We've got to do some cleanup on aisle 21. And the reason I want to do this is because Wake Nation 21 is in training camp as well. And we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But we do make one promise. We make the promise that when we make a mistake, we're going to address it up front. And we're going to let you guys know and have the correct information. So the first thing I want to talk about is my mistake last week. And yes, boo me, boo.
Cheers.
Sorry, I have been smeared. So I last week accidentally cut off the first 5 minutes of the show instead of the intended 30 seconds. So basically YouTube goes live and then there's a playback. I wanted to cut off that 30-second countdown, but instead I cut off my own brother's introduction to the show. So shame
on people to get to know me, man.
Shame on me, and hopefully that will not happen again. I try not to make the same mistakes twice. Secondly, for some reason, I got it right on the first slide that I referred to him, but on the second slide, I kept calling Devin Kalani Ryan Kalani with 2 N's. And that looks that picture on the right is Devin Kalani, and that doesn't look like a guy I want to piss off. So I might call him Ryan Kalani the rest of the season and see if he comes after me. But yeah, not a good idea. Really, just apologies to Devin. You're a beast, 317-pound monster. Going to be very important for us. So need to get your name right. Steel, I wanted to call him Steel Pizza Pizzella, but it is actually pronounced Pizzella, so Steel Pizzella. I apologize for getting that wrong. And Jayshawn Bigfoot, I thought his name was Bigfoot. His last name is actually pronounced Offit, so it's Jayshawn Offit. And I addressed this in the comments last week. I said that 24/7 Sports ranked Damon Claiborne as the 7th best RB prospect in the 26th draft. It was not 24/7 Sports. It was actually PFF. There's a link if you're interested in reading that article. But just want to do a little cleanup. I think it's important to the channel for us to be upfront and have integrity. And so we'll just get through that. A few offensive updates as of week 2. So, the assumption coming into the season from a lot of us was that Falili Fa'amo, who likes to go by Lili, so I'm just going to call him Lili was going to be the left tackle because he was such a highly regarded prospect. But he did play. We didn't think about it as much. He played right tackle for Washington State last year. And what seems to be happening in camp right now is Lili is playing right tackle. And they're trying some different guys at left tackle. Melvin Siani seems to be the best candidate to play that left tackle. We're still 2 weeks in. We don't know if they're going to flip Lely back over to the left and put someone else on the right. But what we do know is typically the best pass rusher on the opposing team is going against the left tackle. So we need a good left tackle. So that's notable. George Sell seems to have settled himself in as the starter at right guard, redshirt freshman. And I love the fact that Dickert is not scared to play young guys if they're good. Clinton Richard is ahead of schedule, according to the beat reports, and could be our starting left guard. He had offers coming out from Ole Miss, Miami, FSU. Dude's got talent. He might just be the guy at left guard. Our three-man quarterback race seems to have been a bit of a mirage. Purdy and Ashford have gotten the majority of the reps with the first team. I don't think this is an indictment on Steele Pizzella at all. I see it more as, the coaches wanting nothing being given easy. He wanted to put a little discomfort on the front two. And beat reporters late this week are saying if the game started today, one beat writer said he thinks Purdy would be the guy. We had an offensive lineman lead the team. So Roderick Tia-Lavea, he was a Washington State guy who came over with Dickert. He was a starter last year for them, didn't play super well, but for personal reasons, for whatever reasons, he's off the team. Jeremiah Melvin has shown some progress, some signs of life in practice. That's always great, given his caliber, a prospect that he was. And Eli Falayi might be the best tight end on the roster. That was not something I expected, but what is being talked about at camp a lot is what he is doing. And so these are just some notes from offense. Shane, do you have anything to add or comment on before we move into the defense?
Yeah, I like Lely at right tackle. I mean, the fact that he played it before, that's great. Maybe a little more comfortable for him. We can get nice push on the right side for our power spread. So good with that. He's clearly our best offensive lineman. So just happy that he's on the team. I think it's been obviously there's been a lot of talk about the offense and what they are and aren't doing. Seems like the coaches have been hesitant, and smartly so, to say that they're behind or they're ahead. It's more been talk of kind of there are more new pieces, and so we're trying to put everything together. They're trying to learn the scheme, which is true, because the defense is returning a lot more players. And so, we give them a little bit of time, and it's nice to see Purdy and Ashford stepping up. We've seen some videos of these quarterbacks, especially Ashford, making some great passes, which we all know his feet are definitely a strength, but to see him making some of the difficult throws is very encouraging. As well as with Jeremiah Melvin, strong passing core is going to be big for us, especially with the talent that we have in the running game. If we can complement that with a strong passing game, the offense is going to be A-okay. So that's what I got.
Absolutely. And folks, you might have seen a dark spot just come up on the bottom right of the screen. That is for your comments. If you want to comment live, we will respond to the comments. So if you comment on that dark right little corner at the bottom of the screen, it's going to pop up and we might talk to you. So feel free to comment at any point. All right, so a little bit about Dickert and Hazelton's defensive tendencies. We're going to expect more zone than man coverage in the pass defense. That's based on things I've read about Hazelton's past at Michigan State, some footage I've watched of last year's Washington State defense under Dickert. We're going to see a lot of pre-snap looks that are disguises. It's going to look one way at the beginning of when the offense is coming to the line, but then last minute A corner is going to retreat to safety. A safety might be blitzing. A linebacker might be at the line of scrimmage when the play starts. Then he's going to run back. There's going to be all kinds of different pre-snap looks that are going to be disguises. The blitz is coming. For whatever reason, Dickert loves the blitz. You can see Washington State's blowout win against Hawaii last year. They deployed at least 9 different blitz schemes in a single game. We're going to have defensive ends dropping into coverage sometimes. We're going to have cornerback blitzes. And, I think the main point to me is so much of our defensive success this year is going to depend on the personnel. And I think that's been shown throughout Dickert's tenure at Washington State. And so as we talk about personnel, let's just get into who is actually on this team at each unit and project who is going to be the starters and the impact that they might have. So Shane, do you want to talk first, kick us off talking about this edge unit a little bit, and then I'll add in my thoughts at the end?
Sure, yeah. So we got Gabe here. They covered him a bit in the media days, and he came on and was able to talk. He seems like a kid with a great head on his shoulders. He's certainly got the pedigree for the position. Obviously a large guy, 6'5", 249. So looking to see, a lot of good plays out of him, and as he goes through camp. We've got Langston Hardy and Newer. How do you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, we're going to be butchering names all season. It's like that.
As you can tell, it's not our strong suit, but it's okay.
It's like that Key and Peele. If you ever saw that sketch where it was introducing players and they all had weird names, it just happens in college football.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Nuer Gatkuth.
Who's
been popping in practice.
He's absolutely killing it. So it seems like we got a lot of good talent at the edge position. Some notable depth that we have there. BJ Williams also was covered in All Access. He's got plenty of experience, and he's obviously quite large as well, 6'4", 273. But I think it's really a good sign that we've got some of these players that we had from last year that are, and it might not be good for them, but they're kind of getting moved down a little bit on the depth chart. And, the defense struggled last year. So as we see these new players coming in, especially through the transfer portal, we've gotten some players from Colorado State. We've gotten some players from UConn. Which is great. So look to see some excellent new talent on the Wake Forest front from the edge position. And obviously with a blitz scheme, that edge is the D line is a big deal, because you gotta get that push, trying to get to that quarterback quickly so he can't kind of go over the top or just dump it off. So
don't underestimate these edge rushers. I'm projecting this is going to be a strength of not only the defense, but the team. And don't let Colorado State and UConn, them transferring from those schools, fool you. Gabe Kirsch, his dad was a legend at UCLA, played 12 years in the NFL. Nuer also came from Colorado State. The Hardy brothers, Camden, you see at the bottom as depth, and Langston. Langston came from UConn, and UConn has put out NFL draft players since they've reached the FBS recently. So don't let the schools fool you. Everything we're hearing out of camp is that these guys are going to be studs, and I expect nothing less. I expect this position group to be a strength of the team. Let's get into tackles a little bit. So we've got Jaden Loving, who transferred in. We've got Dallas Afalava, who came in from actually Idaho. And then we have true freshman Kadir Dembele. Those are my projected top 3 guys. I think Loving is a perfect space eater that we need up front. I think Dallas also, he's got good weight. And another just great sign is that Dembele is a freshman. And, Dickert isn't afraid to put a freshman in if that freshman is really, really good. He's not going to let seniority get in the way of playing the best players. And again, like you mentioned before, a guy like Zach who played, I think he started 7 games last year, pushed down the depth chart a little bit. I hate it for Zach, but I just think it shows how improved this defensive unit can be. Brandon Smiley, the transfer from Elon, hasn't really played a lot in his career. He's depth and Mateen as well. How do you feel about the tackle, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. We're bringing in talent, and I'm encouraged by that. So I think Jaden's got a lot of time on the field already at Western Kentucky.
Yep.
Yeah. So they also I like to talk about the players that they focus on because it says a lot about kind of who is stepping up, who has got the personality to be an elite college athlete. Because I do think it takes a certain amount of swag to get out there and perform at a high level. And so they did a piece on Jaden, which says a lot. And another guy who can really move the middle, the line of scrimmage. I was watching a little bit of film on him, and he's just a beast down there. So I think the defensive line is going to, I mean, there's still time. They're still developing. I agree with you that it's nice to see freshmen getting a shot at things. And it also shows that we were able to recruit pretty strongly this year with freshmen coming in. So, it's going to be a nice mix of experience and talent, I think.
Loving popped as a freshman at Western Kentucky. Now, last year, he only played 5 games. His season was ended early because of injury, but he absolutely popped his freshman year and sophomore year. He popped his sophomore year, and then junior year ended up getting hurt. But I'm really big on him. I'm not as confident about the tackles as I am the edge, but I feel, I would say B+ on the defensive line. I feel pretty dang good about it, and it just feels like a vast improvement over last year. Our linebackers. All right, so just a little behind the scenes. You guys are talking or watching 2 legendary high school linebackers who weren't quite good enough to make it to college.
Legends in our own mind, but we did. We had some. We have some accolades.
We both played in state championships for Mount Tabor High School in Winston-Salem. We are linebacker lovers.
Close to our heart.
Yeah, we're linebacker lovers. Shane, do you want to talk about Dylan Hazen first?
Yeah, Hazen, he's a returning guy. Interesting. He was a huge performer for us last year. He was just putting up tackles. He seemed to always get to the ball. Great at reading the offensive line, great at finding the ball. So really excited about Hazen, and it's nice that he's coming back. And also, Quincy Bryant, he is maybe our most talented linebacker. I think he probably is. Got a great head on his shoulder, super smart guy, super athletic, can just fly around the field. So he's one of those people who can get to the ball quickly, and he can also do pass coverage quite well, which can be useful, especially with those schemes that you were talking about, where you're kind of doing a lot of pre-snap movement and maybe getting linebackers or even DNs a little bit involved in coverage schemes and, out in the flats and stuff. So Quincy, they've focused a lot on him in all access, and just a lot of it was like focusing on, his football ability, but the good head that, he's a very articulate guy, very, just skilled individual in all aspects of life. So I think that's a great linebacker core between Hazen having this high level of reading ability. Bryant has it as well, but his athletic skill is a step above Hazen. Not to say that Hazen is not athletic, but Bryant is just kind of like one of those freaks. So it's we got a nice core there.
Yeah, Hazen, brings a little more weight. He's a little more of the run stopping guy. And then Quincy, Quincy's a PFF darling. Like, I don't swear by PFF grades. I think they're a good tool to have in your toolkit of assessing football players. But Quincy is a PFF darling. He was ranked, as one of the best linebackers last year in the ACC, one of the best coverage linebackers in the nation. So Quincy is the super athletic one. Dylan and, they're just two grizzled veterans at the position that you love to see for a defense, for your linebackers who are kind of the leaders of the defense. A little bit of depth. I want to talk first about Frank Cusano. He redshirted last year at Washington State. He's been making plays all over camp. He might be, even as a redshirt freshman, again, showing this theme of playing talented players regardless of age. He might be linebacker 3 on the team right now. And then also Aiden Hall, he's a good depth piece. I think he could start for a lot of teams in the ACC. He's not a high-level starter at this point, but he could fill in admirably as depth. Alec Marinko and Darius Jones, they're kind of, emergency. We've got a lot of guys hurt linebackers. But, again, I'm giving this linebacker group a high grade, like an A minus, like at least, especially the starters. Like, you couldn't ask for a lot more. And so if you don't have any more thoughts, Shane, we'll move on to the defensive backfield.
Let's do it.
All right. So, let's start before we get into corners and safeties. Let's start with Devon Patterson. He's the one getting all the glory right now. He is the one being touted as an all ACC caliber player, potential All-American. And that's for good reason, because as a redshirt freshman last year, as the season progressed on a defense that was really struggling, Devon just showed us something in terms of being an athletic monster. I mean, he's 6 foot, 217, and can run with wide receivers and, tackle with linebackers. And that's why, if you hear Devon Patterson getting all this glory, that's why, because he has this skill set that of athleticism and ability that, virtually no one else on the defense has. Like, he's the type of guy who, if he sticks around 2 more years at Wake, could become, one of those generational or at least best players of the decade to play at Wake Forest. So that's why Patterson's getting talked about so much. Cornerback, we have 4 guys, which you can see that as a good thing or a bad thing. But again, other guys from last year have been pushed down the depth chart. By that, I mean Zamari Stevenson played a lot of snaps last year. He's been pushed down the depth chart. We've got Trayvon West, who, if the season started today, I might say he probably would start on the outside along with either Prunty or Williams. I love the length of those 3 guys, 6 foot, 6'2", 6'2", and then Ladarius Webb may be 5'9", 168, but he's just the quick, sticky, glued to the receiver type player who the coaches have hyped up a lot. Freddie Gillens, I want to give myself credit. He was recruited as the safety, so I have him on both the safety side and the corner side. But he was one of the guys I shouted out in my first video. If you want to go back to the first video where I did the season preview, I said, look out for this Freddie Gillens kid. And it's turned out he's performed very well in camp, at least well enough to say he's not going to redshirt probably. He's probably going to get on the field. So what do you think about the cornerback room, Shane? Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, I really like Nick Anderson. They've interviewed him a bit, talked to him a bit during media days and All Access, and he's, as Wake fans, we all know him. He was a stud last year. He's got a great story, walk-on guy. So he's one of those that you root for, but he's a ball hawk and can really move around quite well. Obviously, Patterson, enough said. I think you said it quite well and explained his abilities, and he's the star of the defense, I would say, and he's really going to be highlighted in this defense. I think, in pass coverage, especially with the blitz scheme, if we can get some of those rush passes, he could get quite a few picks this year, and that'd be fun to see him kind of running the other way, see if he can get a couple touchdowns going the other way. And they've also highlighted Tongue as well. Tongue's been talked to a lot, so it says a lot in the media and in All Access, they're highlighting these three guys. That shows that these guys are, I think, ready, and the coaches are pointing them out as potential leaders of the team. So I'm feeling really good about the safety position. I have less to say about the cornerbacks, to be honest, and I'm a little more worried about the cornerback position. We've got a lot of guys listed there, which, that's fine. I did hear Hazelton, when they were talking to him during one of the media days, in the fall media days, talk about Webb. And as you said, he's one of those guys who's just sticky, who can cover, and, he's going to be batting a lot of balls down. Maybe doesn't have the size, but has the, quick twitch, muscles, and, the ability, jumping height to really cover anybody in the ACC. I think cornerback potentially has a question mark here. We don't know who's going to step up, but I think it is promising that they've been talking about how good the defense has been looking. We kind of last week we're trying to maybe encourage the audience about the offense and just kind of hang in there. That has not been the case with the defense. It's been, these guys are studs. They're running around. They're moving around really well. They're excited to play. They're eating up the energy that Dickert has brought to the program. And so that's fun. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm anxious to see the cornerback position. In the past, cornerback for Wake Forest has been a position that is had a little bit of difficulty, in my opinion. And so I'm always a little anxious as a Wake fan to kind of watch our coverage and watch our cornerbacks.
Absolutely. I just want to say real quick, Nick Anderson, if you're a Wake fan, Nick Anderson, and he is my spirit animal, a former walk-on who's made it, to become a captain, a leader, with 122 tackles last year. Yeah. Now, I want to say to Nick, I love you, Nick, but I hope you don't get 122 tackles this year, because that was indicative.
You don't have to,
Yeah, because that meant the defense was really bad at stopping the run, and Nick was having to just throw his body
on his back last year.
Yeah, he was putting the team on his back though last year, and so I hope he doesn't have to have as many tackles. But shout out to Nick freaking Anderson. I love you, man. You're my guy. All right, so let's just look real quick at alignment. We're not going to watch tape like we did last week. Part of the reason is I got copyright notified for doing that. But we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about what this could look like. You hear that we have a 4-2-5. Hazelden has called it a 4-3 base, but it's really a 4-2 because most college offenses now, they run 11 personnel. And if you don't know what 11 personnel means, that means you have one tight end and one running back on the field and three wide receivers. And so, being that that is the more like prolific form of offense in college football these days, you're going to have this kind of 4-2 looking defense. And so, this is one of the ways it could look. I took this from the Washington State, one of their games last year. You had two safeties, one up a little further than the other. Where would I guess Devon Patterson lines up in this formation? It's probably as the right-handed safety on your screen, a little closer to the line of scrimmage. But yeah, this is kind of what it'll look like on a standard play against 11 personnel. Any thoughts on just like kind of the standard look against 11 personnel?
Yeah, just with, more of these spread offenses that have become more commonplace in college football these days, it kind of highlights more why the cornerback position is so important. And, I think that obviously we'll have, Patterson coming downhill and, making plays on runs as well as Nick. But, if we're in a cover 2 here and, we got man on the corners, just, what is their ability to kind of cover more of the short cutting routes, and kind of how does that play out for us? So that's kind of one of the things that stands out for me.
Yeah, and against the run in a formation like this, each player is going to be responsible for a single gap in terms of those front 6. And so I'm not going to try to guess which gaps these guys were assigned to, but we do run a one gap scheme defense. So each player has a gap. If you want to learn football, Google A, B, and C gap and what that means for defenses. But each guy on the defensive line and as linebackers are going to be assigned to a gap in the run game. All right, so our next formation is against more of a spread look, more of a look that you might see Wake run this year. So this is no tight ends on the field. This is 4 wide receivers. This is 1 running back and just the front 5. So you're still going to have your 4-2. It's basically a nickel or dime looking defense, but you could run this a couple different ways. And Washington State did that last year. Right now, if you look at the right side of the screen, you see we have our outside corner, and then we have Devon Patterson most likely as the slot corner, but he might just be pretending to be the slot corner. He might, at the beginning of the play, run backwards and us run a cover 2 defense, or we can run a cover 3. That's what Hazelton's talked about. He likes to run more zone than man. He likes to run cover 1, cover 2, cover 3. That's basically both in the NFL and college football. Teams are implementing more zone coverage than man coverage. It's just a trend that is taking place because the caliber of receivers and the speed out there. So this is kind of what it could look like. You could also see 2 safeties back there instead of 1. You could see a safety blitz. You could see a corner blitz. Since we like to blitz at least 1/3 of passing plays. But this is basically what it would look like against the spread. Shane, do you have any comments on what we might look like against the spread?
Yeah, just the one thing that sticks out to me, 5 down linemen. I'm an aggressive defense guy. I'm liking the safety blitz, especially with the safeties that we have here. So for me, especially with having linebackers that are athletic, you could have Quincy, on that, right side linebacker, left side linebacker closer to the up safety, and, bring in the blitz from that side with Patterson, and then have Quincy maybe cover that, inside receiver there, and, kind of hoping to get to the quarterback before the play develops. But I like, maybe some pre-snap movement here and maybe getting some of the safeties involved and trying to get to the quarterback.
And not being scared to drop the ends into coverage. So both of those defensive ends might cover the flat to replace a blitzing linebacker, a blitzing corner. You might see that a lot as well. All right, and so our final look is against 12 personnel. So what 12 personnel is it's 2 tight ends and 1 running back. So I found a alignment they did against a 2 tight end formation with twins right, 2 wide receivers on the right and the running back to the left. This is what Hazelton was talking about when he was talking about we kind of our base against a 12 personnel is a 4-3 defense. So you see 4 down linemen and you see 3 linebackers. Now, one of those linebackers, I have a S in their box because there might be Devon Patterson. Again, where do you guess Devon Patterson might line up in this formation is kind of the question of every slide. But this is just your basic typical 4-3 looking defense. Every guy's got a gap in terms of the front 7. You have 3 cornerbacks on the field in this case, or you might have 2 safeties and 2 corners. It could look either way. Any thoughts, quick thoughts on this, Shane?
I like this formation's kind of close to my heart. I like having this many players in the box just because I like it being like rough and tumble in the middle of the field. If I'm on the offense, and I see that on the other side, I might be trying to audible to spread it out a little bit more. But yeah, it's, a gap assignment, against the run, this is going to be really strong, obviously. I guess one thing I would say is like, I'm hoping, and of course, I'm stating the obvious here, but with these blitz packages, the dump off is just, that's what you always worry about. So I definitely want to see, kind of how Dickert and Hazelton, mitigate that risk. It's a risk that all defensive coordinators have to look out for. So I'm sure they have a great plan in place, but just want to see kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, we got 2 defensive coaches who are known for and have received criticism in the past for over blitzing. Now, I like the aggressive approach, but I don't want to get burnt on a screen or a swing pass. I really would rather not that happen. So we can find a good middle ground to mitigate the chances of that happening. I would be very happy with that. All right, so let's get to our claims. The guy you see to the right is our big defensive end, who I believe is going to be our best defensive end, Gabe Kirsch. He's going to wear number 10 this year, so be on the lookout for him. But the claims about our defense going into this season, we're just going to give our confidence levels this week. We're not going to give it a number. Claim number 1, our defensive ends will be able to get consistent pressure against ACC teams all season. And I'll even say is going to be a top half of the ACC defensive end unit. My confidence level in that is very high. I might be just drinking the Kool-Aid on these camp reports, but I think our defensive ends, like I said at the beginning, are not only a strength of the defense, but a strength of the team. How do you feel about that claim, Shane?
Yeah, I'm probably in the similar. I might be a little bit lower confidence, but it's not like, below like a 5 or something. I'm still pretty confident. I want to see, I just want to see these guys get out there and kind of show us what they can do. Consistent pressure all season. That's tough. Don't want to see anyone go down. But I think we definitely have the talent to get in there. And the fact that our defensive scheme is very aggressive, I think that's going to play well for getting pressure on the quarterback. And so, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Those top 3 need to stay healthy for this claim to come true, but I'm in, man. I'm all in on the defensive ends this year.
Yeah, that's good.
Claim number 2, we will be a top half of the ACC defense stopping the run this year. All right, my confidence in this claim is about 40 to 50%. And I love Jaden Loving. I love our linebackers. but part of what our defensive ends potential weaknesses could be is that they're, more pass rushers than edge players. BJ Williams might be the guy to come in on rundowns. But I'm not super confident that we're going to be super great at stopping the run. I hope we are, but I'm maybe 50-50 on that. How are you feeling on that? Top half.
Yeah, I'm like a little bit opposite to you today, man. I don't know what it is. I think for some reason these backers, and maybe it's the experience, maybe it's the fact that they've come back to Wake, and I don't know. I just listening to Quincy talk and just seeing, kind of. I know we struggled a bit last year, but they've got another year under their belt. They're going to have a stronger defensive line. I think there's no doubt about that. So maybe that stronger defensive line will allow them to kind of open up a little bit more and be able to get in there and, stop the run game.
Okay. Claim number 3. Our defensive backfield will outperform expectations and become a or the strength of our defense. Our safety rooms, I'm just like a hair, maybe even more stoked about our safety room than I am even our defensive ends, because Anderson, even though Anderson, my boy, my spirit animal, he may lack a little range in terms of like deep coverage, but Patterson, Tongue, I'm feeling really great about the safeties. The corners, kind of like you mentioned earlier. We got a lot of guys, but how good are these guys going to be? We have a lot of length, but how much does that matter? I do think length helps because it can make up for a false step. It can make up for a little bit of lack of speed. But I would say I'm, 60% on this claim. I feel pretty good about our defensive backfield, but it becoming a strength of the defense, 60%. What about you?
Yeah, so safeties, my expectation's high. DB's expectation is lower. So if it's going to outperform my expectation, I think it's going to outperform it on the cornerback side. And we'll see. I mean, it's been a great camp for the defense, and that includes the defensive backs. And Hazelden has talked about people like Webb who are, showing, great skill at that level. But for corners, it takes more than one good corner. As football fans, you see time and time again these teams where they get one standout corner and they're killing it all year, and everyone's talking about that corner, but the defensive backs and the defensive backfield is still kind of subpar. So, you can have, one or two studs and still struggle because the defensive back unit really is a team unit, and you really have to have strength at all levels to cover these wide receivers.
Yeah, cohesion and communication are so crucial in the defensive backfield. I just want to say about our defense in general, and it's part of what we're going to get into next week, is like the ACC prognosticators, the national prognosticators, they're underestimating our defense. I think part of the reason we're being picked to finish like next to last in the ACC is because they don't quite realize the level of talent that we brought in through the transfer portal and guys that are freshmen that are going to make big impacts on this defense. And I think if they, even with the questions on offense, which there are big questions on offense, but even with those questions on offense, I am feeling very good about the defense right now. And so I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you guys for watching today. Please please subscribe, help this channel grow, hit the notifications so you know when we go live. We're going to be doing every Saturday up until the season starts. Shane Chilton, my brother, my blood brother, is now a full-time co-host of Wake Nation 21. And there might be times where life happens and it's just one of us, but to have my brother on here with me week to week as we go through the season, I'm honored. Thank you, brother, for doing this. Again, I want to thank the writers at Demon Deacon Digest, and I ended up joining Deacons Illustrated this week for your continued beat coverage and analysis of Wake Forest sports. It would not be possible without you guys and your journalism. So I want to thank you and credit you as always. You guys should go subscribe to one or both of those. Next week, we're going to talk about locker room bulletin board material. Why is everyone picking us to finish last? And why will they come to regret it? Again, tip jar, hit me up, man. If you want to help fund this channel, every bit of money you guys tip us, it's going to go into my Cash App account, but we will use it to build up our studio. We will use it to invest in this channel. So if you want to tip us, you see the Cash App down below. But overall, I just want to say thank you again for watching. Shane and I take a lot of pride in doing what we're doing right now. We know it's a new show, and we're going to have some bumps along the way. But our greatest honor is to cover Wake Forest sports and build community and help promote this team and wake the nation. You know what I'm saying? So, Shane, you got anything to say as we sign out?
Yeah, just echo everything you said. I completely agree with. This is fun, man. We've been doing this for, it's hard to believe, but probably about 20 years. So you guys get to get a sneak peek into how the Chilton brothers analyze football, analyze Wake football. And, that won't be the only thing that we do, because this is a all Wake Forest sports channel. But you guys get a little, insider peek into our opinions and what we think about our teams and how we're going to perform this year. And I am excited for our football team this year. I think this is we may surprise some people. And obviously, they're kind of, the question mark is scaring a lot of people this year, but I think it's an opportunity. So thank you all for watching, and I really appreciate your time. And we're always going to do our best to, give you our honest opinion on what's going on. And it's a pleasure, man.
Built in the dark, baby. Keep sleeping on us. We want you to do it. Keep doing it.
Yeah. Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. Go Deeks. Let's go. Signing off.